Hello, everybody. Next up is going to be Oliver Kern, who you may remember from this morning as an innovative leader in marketing in the Battle of the Marketing Executives presentation. He is now going to talk about how to work smarter, not harder in marketing by looking at the big data.
Yeah. Thank you. Maybe just as a short overview, so I'm going to give you one slide very quickly about who I am, what's my background. Obviously, telling you why online marketing is under pressure. What is big data? I'm going to give you kind of an overview. Also, how we as IQ use it and how this can actually help. I did want to make something also quite practical. So even if you may not have access to big data, okay, how can I still apply some of the key things that need to be done to my small data? But still data. Data is key. So just about myself quickly. So I've been in games now for more than 10 years. I've probably promoted 300 or more uncountable titles. I used to work at Oberon with a large portfolio, moved to Jagex. Now I'm at IQ. I spent lots of budget, always trying to make it work as well and good as possible. But it's becoming harder and harder and harder. And I guess some of you who are in online marketing will probably agree. It's just never stopping, and there's so much more that can be done and has to be done, and it feels like, okay, the pressure is building up and building up. So why is it that online marketing is under pressure? Well, so I have this information from Newzoo. That was a study from 2011. Free-to-play spending in the US went up 24%. Great. So why should online marketing be under pressure? More people spending money means there should be more budget. Germany, same thing, free-to-play spending plus 14%. So these are just two markets, but still, I mean, overall, yeah, nothing to worry about, is it? Well, there is also this report from Facebook, just looking at their CPC campaigns, and the price, unfortunately, has gone up in 12 months by 74%. That's actually quite alarming. And if we were talking earlier about 24% or 14%, that kind of eats it up, right? Looking at our internal data at IQ, so we have a performance network in our product portfolio. CPL has gone up within 1 year by 152% in 12 months. Media has become more and more expensive, and then there is the flood of games coming in and more people entering the market, which obviously also increases the cost. So there's a lot of pressure there, and you can see it in the margins that you can gain. So yeah, until today, it's becoming more and more challenging actually to find affordable traffic sources. As an online marketeer, you're always on the lookout. Okay, where else? What else could I potentially do? Let's test something here. Let's test something there. Oh yeah, well, some things might work, but it's an ongoing challenge, and it's becoming more and more hard. Data, to some extent, has probably not really worked for you. I've seen it many times that people actually focus on key traffic sources where they believe, okay, this overall works, and because of the underlying increase of costs, you have to optimize and optimize and optimize, and at some point you start optimizing to death. Basically, you've made it work for like a $20 budget per day, which you could also just stop because it doesn't make a difference. So what is it that you should do? Well, the answer that will be giving you is, key thing is you have to get a very deep understanding of your user types. You have to use the benefits of online advertising and not treat it like a TV broadcasting channel where you just kind of spread as much as possible and hope that somebody will stick. It's just not affordable anymore. But at the same time, you really have to diversify your channel mix. And I'm going to try to show you how that can be achieved. In the world of marketing, targeting is absolutely king. And when it comes to targeting, there's only one thing that rules, and that is data. So you really, really have to understand who you want to target, and data supplies that and can give you that information. And these days, it's really great. You have access to lots of data, and that's why I'm also going to speak about a little bit about big data and how that can actually work. So what is big data? In IT, big data consists of data sets that grow so large that they become awkward to work with. On-hand data management tools become really, really difficult. You have to capture all this information, store it. You have to be able to search, analyze, and visualize it. I've seen it in quite a few companies. You get loads of data, and then it's very hard to make it work for you and really kind of come to the right conclusions, etc. So sometimes it feels like, okay, there might be a bit too much data, but actually there is not. You just really have to work hard to make it work for you. So at IQ, we've built what we call Gamer IQ, a data management platform for gamers. We basically profile gamers. We've been doing that for quite a while now. At the moment, we have something like plus 100 million profiles of gamers, and with that, loads of properties, how they behave, what they've done, etc. And this is what we collect on, you can see that in our data infrastructure. So we have first-party data where we collect behavior, conversion events, them registering, them becoming an active player, them starting to pay money. And we have appended data, anything else that we can get that is meaningful, like IP address, geolocation, etc., these kind of things. And there is also the source of third-party data where we can enrich user profiles with demographic information, household income, etc., etc., web behavior, and so on. And on our management platform, we basically have a rules engine where we decide how to treat each of these users. We build segments there, and I'm going to explain in more detail how that actually works, because I think that's really the key there. And we can create some kind of predictive optimization of where to show which advert with which user. So the output there is really we get some insight and analysis on the different audiences that we have, and it helps us decide in terms of ad optimization, landing page optimization. It helps in terms of media optimization and bidding. And I'm going to explain also on that how that can actually work for you. So how can this big data help? We collect something like 1.2 billion data points every month. That's quite a lot. And you have to kind of build that into meaningful segments. Here's the typical example. So this is May Santos. She's Australian. She lives in the Netherlands and loves playing Thirst of Night, a relatively new Kabam strategy game. Thirst of Night, well, Kabam came to us with target audience. Yeah, we're looking for males 18 to 38. So, well, here she is playing this game, really enjoying it. So, question is, how did the ad look like that actually brought her into the game, right? So this is kind of their standard ad. Yeah, okay, you get it. It's something about vampires, maybe, and it's free. Okay, well, there are loads of free games, so maybe not that distinctive. But what we tracked is she viewed the ad on yahoo.co.au from the Netherlands. Her sign-up time was 1.1 minutes. She completed the tutorial relatively quickly. Her first payment was after 27 days, plus lots of more information that we captured. If we would have targeted her with a slightly different ad, we would have seen her about 1.2 times more likely to actually click on the ad with something that is much more around community. If we would have even told her that this is a real-time strategy game, even twice as high for her specifically to actually click on this ad. So yeah, reality is, okay, with a male 18 to 38, very broad targeting, you're actually missing the point. And demographic and geo-targeting don't seem to be good enough anymore. So how else can you build actually meaningful segments to target? So what we use as IQ is the Bartle archetype of where originally when it came for MUDs, meaning multi-user dungeons, so MMO games, very interactive games, and I think these rules there apply to a whole variety of games. There are basically 4 different archetypes in terms of players and player behavior: killers, achievers, socializers, and explorers. And yeah, I mean, the perfect game basically offers to all these different archetypes content. But obviously that's slightly different depending on the game. So if you have a very young or a game that is for a very young audience, usually you don't see much of socializer. Also PvP, depending on the age, is maybe not so strong. Very explorative, usually also a lot that is offered for achievers. If you take Thirst of Night, yes, PvP, and definitely a lot of achievers building up their empire. Farmville, Zynga. Okay, well, quite obvious. Yeah, it targets socializers very well, and offers also a lot for the achievers. Certainly nothing really PvP or for the typical killer. And at least this game, some of their newer games definitely offer a bit more explorative things, but not so much for an explorer. So here we have, for example, a killer. We call him, this is one of the segments actually that we use, a newbie hunter, NH. So this is kind of our periodic table of segments. So here we have the killer. Another example, more in the socializer area, the Care Bear that holds the guild together, that holds sometimes even the whole community together, will find themselves in the socializers. Or the Easter egg finder, who basically explores your whole game and finds all the little tiny bugs and all the difficult things, as well as the Easter eggs. Yeah, they are to be found in the explorer area. And then not to forget in the achievers area, the award junkie that really tries to collect all the awards that are there. So this is what we target, and basically you need a lot of data to create all these segments and to make them meaningful and to validate them. And the way how we do it is whenever we have an advertising campaign to fulfill, we use an initial segmentation where we feel, okay, these are actually the audiences that should respond really, really well. Then we start identifying lookalikes out there, so people with similar properties. We target these specifically with the ad servers that we're connected to, and then basically we track their behavior in the game and validate that information, and if necessary, adjust that either in terms of the segment or in terms of the price that we pay to acquire that user. Yeah, and then it basically goes around and around in circles. So I want to make it a bit practical for you guys and show you, okay, now you don't have maybe access to the big data. I only have small data. How can I actually make this work for myself? So here's 5 steps for you to improve your targeting. So we did a test to make it real, and I'm going to reveal some results there, and I think it's very, very interesting. And if you say like, okay, this is maybe something for me, then I recommend that you do something very, very similar with your own game. So we had this lovely game called Pirate Galaxy. In the middle, you will see kind of what we call the control group, a very neutral ad. Basically, it just says free to play. And with the visual, you may realize, okay, this might be a little bit of sci-fi. But that's about it. So similar to the Thirst of Night ad that we saw earlier on. And then we created additional banners specifically for each of these 4 segments. So we said, okay, we're just going to do 4 segments to make it work in this example. And then, obviously, you have to target these segments. So what we did is, and this is something that you could do, is you could then start verifying these segments. So you don't know, okay, is this actually a killer, or is this an achiever who clicked on my ad, an explorer or a socializer? So you need to verify that. So in this example, what we did is we basically ran some of the Bartle test questions to verify actually, okay, this is a killer. Now we want to see how this killer actually behaves in the game. And there it gets really, really interesting. I'm not going to go through all the details, but I'm going to focus on a few things. So we always ran the killer ad and the killer audience that basically validated itself against a control ad. And what you can see here is cost per return user and cost per paying user. And interesting enough, so our normal control group ad running against just a wide audience was converting quite okay. Got to a cost per return user, if you assume $2.50 CPM, to $21. Cost per paying user, $141. Well, you might agree with me that that's maybe a bit too much. Even if you have a fantastic game that monetizes phenomenally, you still don't want to play bank and basically pre-finance the money that this user may want to spend. However, if we looked at the killer segments themselves, you can see here that the killer, for example, will actually only cost you $78. And even more interesting, the achiever will only cost you $44. Now, if we're talking about an MMO, for example, if your game will do something like, let's say, $120 to $220, let's take a very wide angle there, because obviously there are big differences there. You could say, well, I can actually afford something like $40, $45 for a paying user. But socializers, explorers, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So here we are at $250, $370 for a paying socializer. So if I use the widespread, broad appeal in advertising, yeah, I end up with an average of $140, which is not reasonable, but that's mainly because I'm actually also getting people in where it costs me $250 or even $370 to actually get a paying user in this segment. The interesting thing there was that the click-through rate wasn't that attractive, so or that good compared to the control group. So I would definitely not recommend to run for this specific game a CPM campaign, because you might run a lot better if you do a CPC campaign. So this is basically how the segments for this game look. So if I'm taking the very broad approach, that's the one in the middle, right? Targeting an achiever is already three times more valuable, or 3 times cheaper, depending on how you look at it. Same for the killer with 1.6. Whereas Socializer and Explorer are definitely either don't have the content in the game as much, or well, definitely do not respond as well to the game as you would hope. So what you can then do is, obviously you can then say, okay, so for an Explorer, if I know that this is an Explorer audience, I will optimize my media and I will bid lower. I will and I will get some Explorers, but I'm not willing to spend as much for this user group as, for example, for an achiever. Now you have to do that for your specific game, because as I said, every game is different. And then what you do is you basically find lookalike media. So we at IQ obviously have much more data. So we don't only look at lookalike media, but we look at lookalike users actually. But what you can do for yourself is, if you have some small data and some data sets on how users behave, then you will look for media where you see similar registration rates, similar return rates. So I'm just taking these 2 examples of the achiever and the killer. So the killer had a much higher registration rate. However, the return rate was lower. So if you find media where you see similar behavior, then it obviously makes sense to assume that to some extent there will be is more likely to be a killer audience. So you will also show the killer ad there and target the killers even more. And if you find media where you have certain rates that indicate, okay, this may be an achiever audience, then you will look for your specific ad for the achiever and show that. So I'm repeating myself. What to do? It is really about getting a deep understanding of your user types. This very general and broad approach of 8 to 16 male US is just not good enough anymore. You have to be much more specific, and you have to get much more understanding of how your users engage with your content, what kind of users are actually attracted to, in your game, what user groups are actually you are able to retain as good as possible, and then go out and look for exactly these kind of user groups. If you take the broad approach in terms of buying media, then the waste is far too much. And with these spiraling costs, you're running into an issue. Even if you get it to work this month, next month already costs have gone up another X%, and then suddenly you have to cut again some of your marketing. Yeah, use the benefits of online advertising. Basically, you can use the data that you get out of it and actually fuel your advertising and your creatives. And diversify your channel mix. It's not only going onto, let's say, Google AdWords saying, okay, I'm targeting gamers, there you go. You can be much more specific, because also gamers consume media on much more varied channels. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
You're assuming 4 types of players, right?
Yes.
This is based on the theory we heard about yesterday.
Yes.
How relevant is this to casual games?
Well, I think it also applies to casual. Yes. Sorry. Okay, I'll try to repeat the question. So the question was, okay, these 4 archetypes, how relevant is that for casual? I think it is as relevant. You will still find, I mean, that's why I also brought the Farmville example out there. Yes, you will not have as many kind of killers that you're potentially targeting, but especially in terms of achievers, in terms of even explorers, yes. I mean, all the very casual virtual worlds out there, take Habbo, take Wizard 101 or whatever there is, yes, they are relatively casual. So I do think these rules also apply to casual audiences. Yes, absolutely. Yes?
What would be a minimum number of data? Like is there 100 clicks or 1,000 clicks where each has to be somehow relevant?
Well, that depends on the conversion rates, but let's put it that way. If your funnel brings you down to 1 paying user, that's statistically not meaningful and not really significant enough. So I would always say that you have to have critical mass there, because otherwise you're not validating your segments really, and then you can as well just take the broad approach. Yes, but as I said, I think you need probably more like maybe 1 million impressions or something like that for each segment to come to with normal conversion rates, to at least get an idea of what kind of general audiences, and we were just talking about kind of 4 segments and not going any deeper, to get maybe something meaningful. Yeah.
What archetypes or Angry Birds players from your point of view?
That's a good question. I would need to think about that. And at the end of the day, I would then rather recommend that you put in certain touch points or events back into your data and really. I mean, I can assume something. Certainly, it is about leveling up and achievements and these kind of things. But at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in data. So I would always try to rather validate that. Yes.
MMO and console game publisher, we are always advised by online marketing affiliate program to cut down the number of plans in registration form. But we're also going away, we're losing the opportunity to have CIM. You're talking about the team understanding of the players, but if you have shorter registration form, we're also losing the information of players.
Yeah, I don't believe in that. I'll tell you why. It depends on your game. If you have a very, sorry, I'll repeat the question. So the question was, okay, many game publishers advise developers to cut down in MMOs, cut down the number of fields for registration, etc. And I was saying I do disagree on that, and I'll try to tell you why. It depends on your game, and it depends on the audience that you're looking for. If you have a game where you're trying to target core gamers who are relatively familiar with what you have to do and how to register a game, and you're targeting somebody who probably has already played some of these games, people are used to filling in these forms. If they feel like, okay, this is ridiculous, or why the heck am I doing that, like a capture sometimes, yeah, I can understand that, but I don't think that that the number of fields that you have to fill in for a form is the critical factor. If you have a very, very casual game, a very casual audience, and you say like, yeah, everybody, as many as possible can come in and experience my game, and hopefully somebody will stick, yes, then you have to make it as seamless as possible, as easy as possible for somebody to get in, and then you just hope that they somehow enjoy what they then see. But It really depends on what kind of audiences you are targeting.
But why you need that much data when you, I mean, at the beginning they don't buy anything, and they have to when they buy later something, like when they put in their credit card information, they need the information, they have to put in the information there anyway. So why you need that data before? So why not cut it down to
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't mean to. I wouldn't recommend to make it really painful. That doesn't help either. But it's also a false belief to think that, okay, if I cut this down dramatically, I will get many more active players. You will get more registrations, that's for sure. And if your game if you have the right audience coming in, yes, then your game will convince these users. But if you're just going very broad, I mean, yes, you will get many people in, and then they realize, okay, this is maybe not the right thing for me. So you basically just build up your registrations, and they give you fake email addresses and all of that anyway. So what's the point? I hope that answered that to some degree. No more questions? Yeah, there's one more. Yes, I mean, okay, I'll try to repeat that. Okay, so the point is, why not, if you see what kind of groups of players enjoy your game, would you rather kind of then say, okay, go for these players, or add additional content for other player types, right? And I think there is both to be done in terms of marketing. Yes, you go obviously for certain segments, and I wouldn't necessarily say, okay, taking that example of Pirate Galaxy, I wouldn't say, okay, now only achievers, because, I mean, Richard Bartle probably said that yesterday as well, and has been repeating that for a long time. You want to create something for everybody, and there are so many interactions between the different archetypes, so to kind of completely exclude that would be wrong as well. So you need to, in terms of game development, you need to look at, okay, do I want to maybe expand certain areas in terms of content to make it a bit more attractive for these user groups, maybe? And on top of that, you can obviously do your acquisition and say, okay, well, this is not as sticky for these user groups, so I will rather, I can't afford kind of that as expensive media buying, for example, for a certain audience there. I hope that answers that to some degree. Okay, thank you very much.